right, welcome back to another Shifting Schools. Excited that Tricia and I got together to record a couple episodes here around some things that have been going on this last year, things we've been playing with, and some of the things we're excited about the future. Tricia, how are we this morning? How are we this morning? I think morning
Jeff,
to me anyway.
It's game 4, Knicks Spurs.
Oh, here we go.
So I'm glad that I get some time to chat with you so that my nerves can just calm down, relax a little bit, because I am loving watching that series. I don't know if the NBA even registers for you during baseball season or not.
It doesn't, but this one has, right? This one I've kept up on only because you have to. It's in the news everywhere. But yes, go Knicks. I can root for the Knicks.
Thank you, Jeff.
Especially because you're from New Jersey, so I've got a reason to root for the Knicks.
Yeah, it's been like a nice touch of nostalgia. Like, it's taken me back to the 90s. I'm very looking forward to the rest of this series.
I love it. Yeah. Today we wanted to have an episode where we start talking about why teachers over the summer here, as we're going into summer, might want to spend some time dabbling with vibe coding. Now, I don't know how many of you have heard of vibe coding. And so Tricia and I are going to talk through some of the things that we've been doing with vibe coding. I think you and I are both all in with vibe coding. It's been a pretty incredible experience for us. And what are some ways that teachers can leverage this in their classroom as well? So to get us started, Tricia, do you want to maybe just explain what vibe coding is?
Sure. So with the advent of generative AI being able to, in some ways, be like a language machine, code is another language. So if you don't know HTML, you've never coded anything, guess what? You now have the ability to, I have an idea. I will use, maybe it's ChatGPT, it's Gemini. There's a whole variety of different tools that you can say, this is my idea. Can you help me code this out? The more specific you are, the better it gets. There's a lot of conversation right now about how generative AI companies themselves are vibe coding.
Yeah.
So if that is your profession, there's also a big talk about, yes, of course, it's great for me to have the expertise, just like I have expertise in English, and that can take my language coding, my English language coding further. If I'm a coder, I can vibe code some stuff, and that can take me a little bit further. But this is really the first time in our history that you do not need to know a single line of code in order to code something.
Yeah, and it's pretty incredible. So people might have heard of that there are actually now generative AI apps that are made specifically for this. So the one that I think is getting the most news, if you haven't heard, is Claude Code. If you've heard of Claude, it's the next version that is made for coding. It's called Claude Code. ChatGPT has one called Codex. And if you are paying for a ChatGPT account, you already get Codex. You'll see it over there in the left-hand side. If you click on it, it's going to ask you to download the app to your computer. And you use it just like you do ChatGPT or Claude. Talk to it in natural languages. Say, this is what I want you to build for me. And it will create a custom website or program or dashboard based on data, whatever you would like. The third one is by Google using Gemini, and it's anti-gravity. And if you are not willing to commit money yet to one of these, I am really liking anti-gravity. I probably use it as much as, if not more, than I'm using Claude Code and Codex right now. It's free. You just say, if you just Google anti-gravity, you download the program, and you're good to go. Then all you have to have is, as Tricia said, you need to have an idea of what you want to build. And just like you do with regular AI, if you don't like what it did, you ask it to fix it. You don't like the color that it chose, you ask it to change the color. If you know what colors you want, you give it the colors. If you already have a logo for an idea, you give it the logo, and it'll build a website, for example, based on that logo and that idea. So Tricia, as we get started here, what are some things that you have vibe coded in this last year?
So I have redone a lot of the pages on my website. I have also built for my parents a few interactive dashboards. So my dad loves Consumer Reports, has always loved Consumer Reports magazine. And he's in the market for a new TV. And I was like, I think I can build you a very hyper-specific interactive data dashboard that is going to make Consumer Reports look like something from the 1950s.
Yeah.
And so it has the location. You can click through and see when are deals most likely to happen? What are your different preferences? What distance do you sit from the TV? And again, if you're not in the market for a TV, maybe that's not so exciting. But I created a page, Jeff, I'll share this with you, where I was working with a group and we were saying, is it possible actually to use AI to analyze data about comedy today, comedy film, TV shows
Mm,
today, look at what's going on in this era, and then consider what is going to be the pinnacle of comedy in the years to come. We did this in part because there's some really great free open databases where you can go and scrape freely and find out what was the comedy about? Was it family or workplace? What were the tropes? And the thing is, like, before, maybe I could have done that and it would have taken a lot of time. In terms of presenting the data and making the data accessible, I didn't really have those skills.
mm.
But I was able to work with Claude Code to create these pretty phenomenal graphs and this dashboard where you can go through and you can see that data. So it's in my mind a reminder of, if I'm a teacher and I not only want students to be able to practice their analytical thinking skills, their communication thinking skills, and their creativity,
Yeah.
I can merge these things together. I really think that vibe coding is a great add-on to data literacy today.
I agree. I agree. And I can see so many ways that once teachers start to understand the power of this, we can very quickly teach students how to do this. And it unlocks a whole nother way of assessing, a whole other way of understanding data and the world around you. And kids can create their own dashboards based on any data points that they want to help show their understanding of information. I think there's just so many great uses of it moving forward that we are going to have to wrap our heads around. And it's going to start with teachers understanding how to do this, which is why I love that we're doing this episode. That over the summer, as you get ready for next school year, you have some downtime, download Google Anti-Gravity, or if you're paying for one of the others, grab it real quick and just see how it works. For me, I've always loved building websites. My first getting into computers was building websites, my first year of teaching. And so I've always been into it. I love building websites. And so for me, that was my entry point into vibe coding, is I wanted to know, can it actually build an entire website? And it does it. And it does it in less than 15 minutes. This is the most amazing part. So I think since about January, I have launched, I think, 8 brand new websites.
Wow.
All these different domains that I had sitting around. And I just didn't have time to go in and build them and play with them. The book, Human Still Required, if you go to humanstillrequired.com, that entire website is vibe coded. I did not write a single line of code. And still today, if there's ever an update that I need to make to the website, I built that one with Codex. I go into Codex and I say, hey, can you go and make these changes on the website? And it automatically makes the changes on the website. The new book that's coming out, The Next Turn, that website's nextturnleadership.com, and we will put these in the show notes. I did that one with anti-gravity. And the thing that I found very fascinating about that one is basic commands. I want to build a website that launches my book. I want you to do some research before you build the website on what is a good book launch website. What should that look like? What should be included? I also then uploaded the manuscript of the book to say, so you understand what this book is about. Here's the manuscript to this book. Not only did it build the website, it built an interactive quiz that leaders can take to see where they are in their journey of understanding what I talk about in the book as this double transition that we're going through. And I didn't ask it to do that. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. And then when it made the website, it even said, oh, put your email in here to download the Next Turn Leadership Toolkit. And I had to go back to anti-gravity and say, but I don't have a toolkit. And it's, don't worry, we'll make one for you. And it made this beautiful. I had to edit it, of course. You don't just take the first thing they gave you. But I hadn't even thought that how great would it be if somebody could go to the website and get a downloadable to support the book. And so being able to co-author things like this with AI, I think is really interesting, that it's coming up with ideas to make my website better that I wasn't even thinking about. I think about this when it comes to teachers. I have been doing, and this is where I'm headed right now, is back in the day, and I'm going to age myself here a little bit, but in the late 90s, early 2000s, I loved making web quests for students. And even when Google Sites came out, one of the biggest uses of Google Sites when it first came out was creating web quests for kids. For those that don't know, it's choose your own adventure
Right.
only on a website. And I'm thinking, if I was a teacher in the classroom right now, I would be vibe coding web quests for students that is hooked to primary sources. And the whole thing would be made for you. And kids get to go on these adventures that you control, tied to your standards. And all you have to do is it creates the entire website. You just link it inside of Google Classroom or wherever you want. And I'm just thinking, how powerful is that going to be for teachers on the learning end?
The passion that's coming through in your voice, Jeff, palpable. And I really hope that listeners are getting that. You're so excited because I'm guessing here, it's two things. A, it is really fun to do. As you
Yes.
said, it's not about just taking the first output, but that back and forth and that co-editing process is really creative.
Yeah.
All the research on creativity tells us doing creative things is good for us. So that's coming through. But then the other part is we can make things that we could not make before.
Exactly.
And guess what? Learners love that. Like, I think this is going to sound kind of crude, but I think sometimes we underestimate that a student who goes through the school day, through the school week, doing the same is really boring.
Yeah.
And I do think, of course, not novelty just for the sake of novelty, but something that your teacher has created, custom made for you, that is genuinely new. Of course, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And we need more of that.
And I want to talk about, this is where I've been thinking a lot about the power this has for teachers. And so I want to walk you through, I think so far, one of the favorite things I've done, and again, blew my mind that it even could do it, is one of my favorite games growing up on my Apple IIe and then my Apple Classic that we had in our house was Carmen Sandiego. And you and I have talked about this.
Love it.
Love it, right?
Huge fan.
Got to see the world and got to learn about geography and everything else. So being, again, as we've talked a lot on this podcast, I come from a fourth grade mindset and I taught fourth grade here in the state of Washington. And I know in the state of Washington, one of my favorite things to teach was Washington state history. It's part of our standards. So here's what I did. I went to Gemini because I wanted to use Google anti-gravity. So I started with Gemini. If you're going to use Codex, you probably would start with ChatGPT. But I wanted to get the directions straight before I asked my coder, my AI coder, to go code the thing. So I went to Gemini and I asked Gemini first. I said, could you find the Washington state standards for fourth grade in the state of Washington? And of course, boom, it comes up. And I said, great. I want to take these two standards. And I highlight, copy, and paste the two standards. And then I said, I want to use these two standards. And I would like you to create for me the instructions to give to anti-gravity to create the Carmen Sandiego game from the 90s so that students could play the game and meet these standards. And so Gemini wrote the instructions. I just looked at him real quick and said, that looks pretty close to what I'm looking for. Copy. I then fire up anti-gravity, which is the coding system. I paste those instructions in and said, go. In less than 10 minutes, I had a Carmen Sandiego game based on places in the state of Washington that must be covered via the standards, ready to go. And I was showing this to a group of teachers I was working with here in the state. And it had, 4 places. Like you had to go visit you're chasing. And for this one, it was the Sasquatch. You're trying to catch a Sasquatch is basically. It made it hyper relevant to the state of Washington. And you had to go to the dam. And you had to go to Wenatchee where the apples are growing. And you had to go to the national forest. And it's got kids running around. But I'm working with these group of teachers. And I said, here's the cool part. I just go back into anti-gravity and say, could you add one of the places, your town, Lake Stevens? And it said, sure. And it rebuilt the entire game in less than 5 minutes and added your hometown as one of the places that you would go look for the Sasquatch to put them in jail. And it just, I don't know, I'm still just in awe. I started with a standard because this is what I need kids to learn. I had it write instructions. And then from there, made an interactive game that in my classroom, groups of 3 or 4 kids together around one computer would be trying to solve this mystery. I don't know. I just think there's so much power in that. It was fun to create, to your point, on my end, but I can just see kids eating this up.
Yeah. And again, what's really powerful, and listeners, you're listening to the show, we know you know this, but then once you're modeling that positive use for technology, students are also going to begin to get that idea of, oh, this isn't about cheating. This is about a technology that's going to let me do things that I could not do before. And I am going to be able to use my imagination. I need my imagination because if I want to create a game that is really hyper unique, I've got to have that idea. I'm going to have to play around, and I'm going to need to know how to use this technology for something powerful.
Yeah.
So I think giving more examples like that of, why do I want to learn how to use this?
Yeah.
What if I want to create a game for my family? What if I want to create a game for my group of friends? Again, I think, Jeff, before this call, we were talking a little bit about, we're right now in that dip of the AI backlash. I think we're going to be here for a little while. We go through this with every new technology.
Yep.
It's always happened. It's happening again. But I think I was at the vet office. Tashi had to get her new round of shots. And even the vet and the vet tech, it's now in my vet office where they are using technology that is transcribing all of the notes. And they're using that. And they went through that with me beforehand. And I'm thinking, like, this is a technology that's integrated into everything now.
Yeah.
So students need to know about it.
Yeah.
Why not give them some really positive examples like the one you just described?
Yeah. The last time I went to the doctor here about a month ago, and they asked permission to record. And my doctor's pretty geeky. We geek out a lot around this stuff. And I asked him, I said, are you finding it helpful? And he said, yeah, it's great. Because the thing that I don't need to be spending my time on is writing notes. I need to be seeing patients. That's where my work gets done. I have to write notes. The notes are important, but that's not where you want to spend your time, right? You want to help people. And he said, the ability that it has given me to speed up the note-taking part. And he says, I still review them. I still make sure it's everything that's there. He said, but I'm not starting from scratch. It's already picked out. And he says, and it's just getting better of knowing what are the points that I need. And I go in and edit and quick, and I'm seeing the next patient faster. And I'm thinking, that's what this is about, right? My doctor being able to spend more time with me and less time on the notes is what I want doctors to do, right?
I agree. And I really noticed in this example, the vet was able to have a longer conversation with me.
That's right. You spend more time with the patient.
And we actually solved an issue that I've got to say, I don't know that we would have had the time to even discuss before.
So great.
So vibe coding, I think, is a really great example that reminds us creativity is not less important. It is more important. And when you leverage it the way that you did, when you're talking about building something for and with a community, that's super powerful.
Super powerful. If this interests you and you'd like to learn more about vibe coding, reach out to Tricia and I. You can email us at info@shiftingschools.com. We're wanting to know if there is enough people who are interested in going deeper in this. We would love to run a cohort either this summer or early next school year as we're getting going to just look at how does vibe coding fit into your system as a teacher. But then also, again, starting to think about, okay, what does this look like in the hands of kids when kids can create some pretty incredible and powerful ways to show data as well. So again, reach out to us, info@shiftingschools.com. All the links that we've talked about today will be in the show notes, including my Carmen Sandiego link. Just if you do click on the Carmen Sandiego link, you might have to say, it says it's an unsafe website. It's not an unsafe website. It just It's not HTTPS because I just threw it on my little server. So you have to say unsafe and go there, but it'll be there as well. But yeah, spend some time, and we'd love to hear if you are already vibe coding in your classroom or you're vibe coding with kids. Leave a comment wherever you're listening or watching this podcast, and let us know how you have been starting to play with this very powerful technology. Awesome. Tricia, thank you so much. Excited to learn more and to talk more about vibe coding as we continue on. And for everyone else out there, until next time, we'll see you on the network.
Thanks again for listening, folks. Just a reminder, if you enjoy the conversations on this podcast and you are looking to learn a little bit more with Shifting Schools, you might want to check out our free Substack. AI Forward is the space that we are sharing news about AI that you probably aren't seeing in the headlines. This is also a space where we're sharing ready-to-roll strategies and resources for you to put into action immediately. You probably are hearing an awful lot about the idea of being human-centered in this new era of AI. Now, if you want to be thinking more about exactly what we want to mean, what we should mean, especially in education, about centering the human, AI Forward is a Substack that I think you will enjoy. You'll find the link to subscribe in the video description or in the podcast show notes of this episode. Thanks again. See you next week.